Hey everyone, welcome back to the Eden Room. I'm Kat Diva and I am wishing you a happy new moon in Taurus. Any minute now we will be joined by Vicky Green, but before we begin I want to let you know that the tickets are flying off the shelves for our upcoming event, the Eden Room's Unbound. It is coming to Somerset on 20th of June. It's an amazing event. Vicky Green will be there with us in person. We're going to be enjoying some luxuries, some space, some time out in nature. This is the ultimate reset self-care package with a kind of transformational business twist. So if you've been at a bit of a segue or a reset or a transition, who hasn't been there? Then, hang on, I'm just shutting my curtain. Then please check this out because the tickets are going really fast. It's at www.theedenroom.com/unbound. There's just so much lovely stuff to say about it. Vicky, you're going to be there. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're going to be like?
Sure.
And it's 2 days. So it's arrivals between 3 and 5 on Sunday. I know it's Father's Day, but you can do your Father's Day brunch or lunch and then come and join us for high tea. We're going to be having an amazing dance ritual that night, and then dinner and a DJ into the night. And then the following morning, after you've had a beautiful night in luxury glamping and hot showers, we're going to have optional yoga in the morning, followed by breakfast, and then Vicky and Debs DeVries and I will be co-facilitating the rest of that journey, and we'll leave at about 3 o'clock on the Monday. So we're really enjoying the solstice. Hiya, Nikki. Nice to see you. Hiya, it's Nikki. Just chatting about the solstice event. Nikki, you should definitely come. It's at www.theedenroom.com/unbound. And Vicky, you're going to be working with us on the Monday. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're seeing for the solstice event, what you're bringing, and the vibes that you'll be creating with all the women coming?
Sure, how beautiful. So obviously really special, unique day in the year. So it's the solstice, so we'll be really celebrating that sort of the peak light of the year. So whatever people want to work on, whatever they're really sort of looking into, this is a huge opportunity for an up-leveling, and to do so with the whole cosmos behind you. So we will be exploring everything that comes with that. My own sort of feeling into the themes, but obviously we'll keep an eye, is that also we'll be working on themes to do with the wild woman, and really how we can use sort of the inner goddess, bring more of our inner goddesses out to play this year. So be very much developing on the theme, obviously Kat, with you and with Deb, so that we can actually take people on a wonderful journey. I mean, it feels to me like that's the theme of Unbound.
Yeah.
It really is a sort of a vision quest in some sense.
I run my events very much like a ceremony these days, where everyone sets their intention. When we do that opening ceremony, that opening share, it's your opportunity to get clear about why are you here. And you might not even know until that moment when you're sat down on the earth, when you go, oh, this is why I'm here. I'm actually working on this area, or this is my intention, what I'm manifesting. And I don't know about you, Vicky, but every solstice, if I'm not doing something on the solstice, I sit there indoors feeling really weird, like I'm supposed to be out dancing tonight, I'm supposed to be outdoors, I'm supposed to be celebrating. And if I spend the solstice and it's not in that high vibrational like ceremony, just celebrating with my sisters in nature, I feel really disconnected and really sort of resentful. Actually, if I'm like tucking my kids in at 7 o'clock and sitting down with a cup of tea, it's just like, it's not going to be this way. And it's like for centuries, for millennia, this is what people did in Shakespeare. He talks about Midsummer Night's Dream. This is the opportunity to dream and dance and play and really receive the wisdom, the manifestations, the insights, the breakthroughs, and the stuff where it's like a little bit beyond our beliefs sometimes, like the magic, the magic of being a woman, the magic of life. We've never needed that more, have we? We've had a year of lockdown and constrictions, and it's like, come on, let's just blow the doors off. Let's get to Tanya, get the flowers.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can just enjoy it so much being a girl. Wear whatever you want to wear. Like, come and celebrate. Even if you come on your own, you will be completely wrapped up in love and welcomed. And if you want to bring girlfriends, you can make a saving on your ticket and bring up to 3, so you can share up to 10 to 4 girlfriends and make a bit of a special night of it. So bring along your bestie and we're going to celebrate together. So yeah, So thank you for doing that with us, Vicky, on the solstice. I'm literally right now on this Taurus new moon thinking, okay, what goals do I want to set today that I'm going to be celebrating with my sisters on the solstice at that Unbound event? That's literally how I'm thinking of it.
That's the ticket.
Yeah, because I normally go really big and quite long distance with my goal setting on the new moons, but I'm learning with you and through the Eden Room, actually it's quite powerful to be coming back to the here and now. You know, what is it for this next stretch of time?
Yeah, the universe is definitely chunking it down for us.
Yeah,
that's really been the energy of this year. I appreciate that everything's gone a bit sort of timey-wimey since we did lockdown, but this year and this age of Aquarius energy, it's like each little significant step forward is worth it. I mean, it feels more than 2 weeks since we were doing our full moon in Scorpio, you know. So everything means that actually we have to really pay attention to the details of how we're feeling. There's a lot of glory and a lot of sort of divine intervention that's coming through. Yeah. And so really that does really speak to exactly what you're saying, just one piece at a time. Where do we want to be sort of by another new moon, by solstice? Sounds absolutely spot on, and in terms of very much in tune with how things are right now.
Well, that's reassuring, taking the next step. And I wanted to say hi to Emma and Gael and Nikki. So great to have you guys with us. And let's be real, you know, we've just been sharing this morning on our chat that it's been an intense couple of weeks, right? Like we thought May was gonna, you know, oh, it's all gonna be fine and the trees are gonna come out and blossom and summer's here. No, it's felt like the rain's been coming down. It's been kind of intense. We had all those solar flares last week. And I got to this place with you this morning where we were chatting about, let's be honest, of how spring doesn't happen in one go. Like life doesn't just happen and it's done overnight. It's emerging in a process, and we're in this new world and we've never lived through a time like this. And part of spring is about surviving the winter. Like we're here now, we're all still here, and you did great if you're still here. And so can you speak to that intensity? Because great to see you, Nikki, but can you speak to that intensity? Because we were talking about the glass ceiling and how there's still this sense of actually I trust this intensity in my life, that it's putting me under this intense pressure, but there's something going to break through as I come into more of my true self this year.
Absolutely. So, and in fact, this new moon in Taurus seems to be really encapsulating lots of what you've just talked about, Kat. So in terms of the intensity, right, things have been extremely intense, and I'd be lying if I said that they weren't going to continue to be intense for a little while yet.
Okay.
So this new moon sort of heralds, then we've got eclipse season, so we'll then have our lunar and solar eclipses coming up over the next 2 lunations.
When does that start, the eclipse season?
So the next thing to note is the 26th of May will be our lunar eclipse. So we'll come back and do an event to talk people through in advance of that, so people are fully prepared. Fantastic. But I just want to sort of set the scene that this is the theme of this year. So as much as, yes, spring has these elements whereby spring doesn't cook in one day. It's like there's lots of things growing. We have to see what's growing in order to then be making further choices. And obviously there's the rest of the cycle to go through. So that's, if you like, a sort of an evergreen spring element this year. So we've got Taurus we've got sun and moon coming together for this new moon. I should say the new moon happens tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Okay. So if people are working on their intentions, they can start building them now, but the real point in time to set the seed will be tomorrow evening. So that's 8 p.m. on the 11th of May. Right. But and at that point, it's really magical. So those two come together. They come together in the 7th house, which is our house of relationships. They're coming together with Lilith. Yeah, they're all within like 1 degree together. And we've got Scorpio rising. So there's going to be quite a lot of material. That means that people will be finding who they are in ways they've never been able to access before. So that's what's happening underneath the intensity and the messiness. It's like, who are you really? And I know we did a lot of work in April with our April's Fall and the I Am. This is be who you really are to get what you really want. this is the Taurus, this is the next stage round. But there's no, in this new energy, of course, there's no half measures. So we'll all be doing a deep dive on getting to know our truth.
Yeah, and there's something about boundaries in here, isn't there? I'm really feeling in this May energy. It's like, I know for me, part of my patterns and wounding in relationships would be to kind of like default to the other person. And now I'm getting all this testing around, actually, this is so uncomfortable, but I have to hold this boundary. And this is where I've like done the work to figure out what it is that I need and want and who I am and what I'm okay with, what I'm not okay with, which sounds so simple and obvious, but it's actually a massive amount of work, right? Like it's kind of what Debs was saying about setting up our country, thinking of ourselves as a country. If we were a country in the world, which country would we be? Or what would be the laws of that land? What would be the values of that land? And then who is allowed into that country and who isn't, and who stays away, and what are the proximity of the different people in your life and the toxicity in your life and things that you're okay with and not okay with. And there's something about this Taurian moon around value, isn't there? Because Taurus is this sort of structure, it's home, it's place in the world, it's body. What about like this idea of when we value ourselves, we do create these boundaries, and the more that our hearts are opening, like the bigger the door has to be, like the portcullis has to come down and create more protection and boundaries around who we let into that heart space and so on.
Absolutely. And in fact, I would say almost that's been the theme that we've seen coming through. And in some ways it's heartbreaking. There's a lot of sort of surprises going on. So we've had Uranus in Taurus for all this year. You know, that's really making quite a difference in terms of changing things up and making us look at things in new ways. I think one of the welcome things it brings is it puts a bit of space in. So it does allow us actually that time to go away, become ourselves. And of course, with Uranus, it's like we have to be truly ourselves. So this is us being the radical version of us. And come 8 o'clock tomorrow night, it's right on the descendant. So it's giving an extra whammy to those relationship pieces, and relationships perhaps in the very broadest sense on that axis. You know, it's absolutely how we interrelate with the whole of the rest of the world. Wow. And so, you know, you be you has got to be sort of our absolute mantra, you know, and it's very much supported on this boundary piece. Quite interesting. We see that we have Jupiter right on the bottom of the chart as well. So that's the who are we in the deepest, most profound, and also very spiritual, expansive sense. So it might feel like we're keeping others at a distance, but that doesn't mean our world's going to shrink. The way in which we're knowing ourselves, and therefore the types of relationships with whoever that we're going to be bringing in, are going to be so much richer, so much more rewarding. So this moon is very much about sort of a stick with the program, step at a time, you know, set those really good intentions, and then there may well be some magic in the air. I mean, we see, so Jupiter just closing out, it's going to go into Pisces, where it's co-ruler on Thursday. And then that's going to give us the real uplift. I believe it's going to give us some of the uplift we've all been hoping for this year.
So breaking through of the glass ceiling, like the pressure's building, but Thursday we're going to be able to go through that glass ceiling, be in that new level, you know, stabilize into everything we've been sort of feeling, but like are we nearly there yet of 2021?
Yeah, I think it gives us a huge opportunity. So we may remember that some of, obviously there's lots of different possible dates for age of Aquarius, but quite a lot of us looking back to that great conjunction, sort of December last year, when Jupiter and Saturn together went into Aquarius. So actually, although Saturn obviously is slower, is going to stay there, Jupiter moving into the next sign does genuinely signal a step up in the spiral. So it will go retrograde, so it will come back for a little bit more in Aquarius later this year, but this is the beginning of a taste of how things are actually moving forward. And so I have to conclude, well, I can't promise we're there or quite what's going to happen. Obviously something's coming through, and we have a mini foretaste. We've actually got Mercury conjunct the North Node, so Mercury in Gemini, which it rules, you know, all about the ideas, the visions, the communications. So what we might find for the first time, because obviously North Node in Gemini, like that's only going to come round, well, Mercury's only going to be conjunct it once every year. So when we're sitting here and we're thinking, again, perfect time for intentions. So we get our idea seeds planted, and then that Jupiter will bring the work in. So it could be absolutely beautiful over the next month to actually see some of those things bearing fruit, because I think we're at that point now where we'd all quite like a bit of relief.
Yeah, we were talking about the lobster moving from one shell to another and knowing that there's this bigger shell. But if you've lived and that's your security and that's your comfort zone, when you actually transition, which I think so many people are in this sort of liminal transitional space right now, you just feel so naked, so sensitive, so raw, you know, and like having to keep the faith and hold the line that there is going to be a bigger and better shell for you to find your way into for your next phase of expansion and growth. And it's a little bit right now of kind of still clearing out the junk drawer and doing a little bit of the inner work and letting go of the old, because that new is coming. And there is a lot of just messaging around keep the faith, and it's okay that you feel heightened in your sensitivity and maybe exceedingly vulnerable, because this is an exceedingly delicate time.
It's really delicate. And actually I was looking, really sort of stepping back from the charts to have a look at why that was, and I realized that, you know, in terms of our balances, so we talk about the signs being in different elements. So we have our fire, air, earth and water. And actually at the moment, only Chiron is in the fire signs. And so that means that particularly for fire signs, but for all of us who are looking for that sort of spark of life and the creative stuff that gets us going, actually the only planet channeling that is Chiron. He's there for our healing. So actually right now, it could be that we're all feeling very sensitive and it's hard to find our foot on making that next thing happen. But obviously it will change. In astrology, things always move forward, things will be coming together. But just to sort of give a bit of self-care at this point in time, that if you are feeling that things have been a little bit rocky and a little bit sore, that you're not making it up, that you're actually really in tune, and therefore the benefits will come through as and when they can.
Yeah, and if your guidance has been like, rest, slow down, take it easy, not now, wait, where you think that's totally counterintuitive, like, wait, it's the start of summer, it's spring, I need to be go and expansive and doing my thing, and it's like, gosh, this has felt like we're still in winter, even in the weather, you know, it's getting there, but it's cold. And this time last year was a freaking heat wave. We were all outside barbecuing even though we were in lockdown. This year it's not that, and I think we are being in that sort of tail end of just keep stirring the pot, keep doing the work. You're allowed to take it steady. This doesn't have to overnight all get fixed, all get sorted, all make sense. You don't have to figure this out with your head. You just have to feel your next step and take your next right step and keep getting that foothold by doing it in a very Taurian, plowing that field steady as she goes, taking the next right step.
Yeah, it's a new way of thinking. It's quite interesting with this sort of Mercury North Node, very much sort of looking to the future, and also with Jupiter going to Pisces. But Jupiter and Pisces really different to Jupiter and Aquarius, right? So Aquarius really does sort of help with the intellectual sort of understanding, a new way of looking at the world. Jupiter and Pisces knows when to let go.
It's like a
just
defrag.
knows.
We're just having this
defragging. Yeah. Absolutely. So, and it's really interesting that we're progressing into that. So absolutely, this new way of almost deprogramming how we think seems to be the theme.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to actually, so in terms of intention setting, which can be so valuable, is setting intention around how we want to feel. It has never been more important. I mean, I appreciate there's everyone has their own way of manifesting and intention setting. So obviously people should go with what feels right for them. But if interpreting the astrology more than ever, it's about the heart. You know, it's got to be a heart-led basis for manifesting whatever we want, and it's got to feel good.
It's got to feel so good. And the currency, the abundance of depth of connection right now, as you were saying, in friendship, in community, is, I've never felt it like this before. I've never felt so safe in my connections in ways that I might have insecurity and destabilizing in other areas of my life, but I feel really held in sisterhood, actually, and and also in male relationships in my life. It's interesting, the relationships have really come to the foreground, like the age of Aquarius said they would. That this is the true currency and this is what's real. And a lot of the matrix, a lot of the system, the way that things have been constructed, it's feeling like it has less power. It's feeling like things are crumbling away, or they're just unpeeling. Those shells are cracking. We're seeing through things. We're not so englamored by it all. We just kind of want what's real and what's true to us. I really get that sense of like it's about this homecoming and that Taurian sort of home, the self in the home of the heart.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that also really speaks to this Taurus Scorpio axis. I mean, you know, the wonderful thing about Scorpio, we've got Pluto retrograde in Capricorn at the moment, right? Oh. So that's the even deeper dive than you thought you could cope with, this kind of experience of getting to the root. It's like, you know, what have we built? And it's what are the intentions behind what's being built. So we can talk about how that might manifest in the world, whatever, but actually, you know, in ourselves and our own lives, it's like, what have we built our life upon? And to the extent that something doesn't hold up, isn't in our best interest, it's not going to make it through. Not out of any kind of, you know, the universe isn't trying to play tricks on us. It's actually genuinely clearing us out for the true value, the Taurus side of things that needs to come through. So fascinating week this week. So hopefully people watching this would be able to really allow themselves to have those feelings, have those. It might bring up fear, it might bring up all sorts of messiness, past issues, absolutely signified family issues, you know, all this stuff, all grist to the mill to actually build that healing for the next stage of everything that's waiting to come in. But that intention in terms of the, when we look around and we realize why things are being built the way they are, it's quite natural that we're going to feel sort of anger and emotions about some of those too. We've got Mars in Cancer. So absolutely, again, if people are either feeling a little bit out of sorts in their lives or they are getting triggered more, just to bear with and see where it leads, because underneath it there will be jewels in there. Absolutely.
I'm feeling in that Mars in Cancer there's like this slightly like fear of letting go of the old as well, and I'm almost wondering if we suggest, you know, do the Epsom salt bath before you do the new moon Taurus intentions tomorrow night, before you sit there with your pen and paper. And I would also say like journaling on your version of success, because the game has changed so much now. I read this great quote, I sent it to you, that millionaires don't consult astrologers, but billionaires do. And the wisdom of that power of as above, so below. What is it like? Is it a good time for us to be making decisions and giving meaning? Like my sense is I'm still in quite an almost Piscean dreamy unfolding where I'm exploring and I'm curious and open, but I'm not like making any real definitive decisions at the moment. And is that the nature of the beast, or do we need to push ourselves to kind of make decisions? I mean, to decide means to cut, right? Decide is like to make an incision, a decision, and then do away with the old. How much of that Mars in Cancer is stopping us from letting go? Do we need to be a bit more bold and like cut it off, or is it like a bit of a nebulous thing still at the moment, and there's going to be a time later in the year that's better for decision making?
Right. So I would say that we're always making decisions all the time. We make a decision whether or not to do something. So decisions are an unavoidable part of life. And so depending on what people are feeling called to do, make that decision in that moment. What I would say is, because I agree with you, Mars in Cancer can be quite historic, quite past, quite sentimental. So definitely say, use that Mars energy, not perhaps to do it unconsciously, but bring that consciousness, you know, that Mars, that taking action, the bravery. I'm brave enough to look at my emotions. I'm brave enough to look at the patterns. I'm brave enough to understand, what am I expecting when I'm making this decision? Because we often make a decision thinking, oh, well, I know what I'm going to get. If I do this, I will get that. And if I do that, I think I will get the other. Or we take a risk-based assessment. Well, we're in a whole new paradigm. Like the only way to make a decision now, to make a great decision, is to actually feel into the truth of it. And that might mean no action. It might mean 110% action. But it won't be like using the past in order to make decisions about the present and certainly the future. Just feels like that's so old school. And that the new way is very much going with the flow, bringing the synchronicities. I would say if you don't intend anything else with this new moon, intends to have the synchronicities that will make your heart sing and make your life flow. Because even just setting like a meta intention like that can actually just up level us more naturally than anything else. We don't have to choose every last little bit. We can just totally choose the up level.
And it helps us feel like life is magical. If we're living with those synchronicities, we came off that Lobster call, then my next call, this client starts mentioning Lobster, and I was just like, okay, this is getting weird. I mean, it's tiny little things, but it gives you that affirmation of the internal sense of everything's okay and everything's going to be okay, and we're on some kind of journey, and there's a supreme intelligence guiding us, because part of intuition, why people find it scary to let go and trust this flow and this unfolding, is because they're not necessarily in contact with this benevolence of the universe, the trust in that divine being, the loving or the divine design of life, you know, that it's loving and benevolent at its core. It's not here to punish us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say that sometimes that's quite a sensible way to be, right? So we all love intuition. I personally believe we're all here, we're all becoming our own shaman. But you know, some of what's caused that glass ceiling is actually where we've internalized the beliefs we've been given. So if we're going around with the belief that we can't get what we want, then lo and behold, we'll be manifesting that we can't get what we want. So this is an opportunity actually to think, well, how have I decided that the world is? And if we do think, well, I'm not sure I can trust my intuition, or I can trust in the divine, or whatever it is, that's the thing to be looking at. Because if we do keep trying to push ahead when we're still carrying some of these things, we might find our success is partial. You know, we may get some of the way, we're always improving, but it might just be a bit slower and a bit less comfortable. Whereas actually doing a bit of sort of digging in, so hang on a minute, what am I carrying in my backpack of beliefs about how the world works, and having a little sort through of that might absolutely pay dividends.
How the world works and what I'm worth within that world. That's the Taurian, right? Like because I have my sun in Taurus and my Chiron in Taurus. So, you know, I'm definitely in that school of value and worth and self-worth. And it's like, the world might work this way, but do I believe that I'm a useful part of that, or a worthy part of that? And even if I'm not doing anything, am I then still deserving? Am I still enough? Will I be loved? Will I be accepted? Will I be appreciated? Will I be valued in the world? Right? That new moon in Taurus, like your value here and your what you uniquely bring to this planet.
That's so beautiful. And I was just getting the image of Venus as a mediator here. So Venus rules Taurus, but is now in Gemini. So we've got both Venus and Mercury in Gemini. And Venus in Gemini is all about sort of loving the way we think, thinking in a kind and loving way. So there's probably never been a better time actually to dive into who we are, what we want, but then also to be able to frame that in a way that makes sense. And I'm feeling a lot of inner child here as well, right? You know, because actually the pieces of us that hurt don't need that intellectual communication. They need the loving communication, the softness, the sensitivity. And so that probably is the route through to whatever it is you want, whether it's more business or a house or whatever, you know. But actually that being kind is the part of you that has sort of come up against the blocks before, because really that will be the part also that's created the glass ceiling, right? It's the very early beliefs that come in that actually cause our biggest restrictions. So that's where we do need some TLC.
This is,
I would say, definitely.
this
you know,
is massive.
The bards.
This is like, I want to rewind that and have you say that again. Like, say that again. It was like the intellectual. It's almost like you cannot reason your way. Your inner child isn't going to deal with your intellectualizations of her pain. It needs the non-verbal, loving, self-loving, transformational energy in order to soothe her and mother her and be empathic with her and just feel with her, rather than like tell her, don't be silly, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't talk our way through it.
Yeah,
because she won't hear that. And the thing is that she is the source of truth in terms of what's holding us back, because it's those early woundings that sadly, you know, cut so deep, you know, and that do cause these sort of unconscious frameworks of belief about how things are.
Yeah.
So in fact, in order to get the biggest healings, we have to go into the gentlest place.
I'm getting visions of little girls being like, Mummy, I want that toy and that toy. And it's like, well, you can't have that, choose one. Or like, you know, can I have the chocolate sauce and the flake on the ice cream? No, you can't. I mean, it's these tiny slights that set these patterns up of going, well, I can't have love and money. I can't have, you know, the universe is like this idea that the universe is this kind of parent on a budget, rather than this like omnipotent, all giving, all loving, you know, force of life. And it's not like so mean. It's not saying you can't have love, Catherine, and a successful career. You know, slap on your wrist for wanting that. That's not what it works. But as you say, this is fascinating. The glass ceiling's being constructed at these very primal, very sensitive, very raw lobster places in our psyche.
Absolutely.
And we cannot intellectualize our way out of those. We have to go and sit and soothe and comfort and adore and love on that little girl that wanted the chocolate topping and the flake and the strawberry cream and the chocolate cone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it will be absolutely, in those moments, the ones we remember, and sadly the ones we cannot actually logically remember, that hold the greatest gifts for us. So this is, I think, is also why things have felt so intense.
So intense and so painful. Like this little girl that, you know, went through whatever kinds of abuse that she didn't even consciously remember, that she was slighted or she was exiled or she was disowned or abandoned or hurt or violated. Or, you know, it's not even in our conscious understanding, is it? It's totally suppressed, but it's all been coming up.
It's all absolutely been coming up. And I think, you know, this is one of the reasons why I find astrology so helpful. It's like there's a way that by talking through the symbols, we can access the parts that other things can't reach. And, you know, so people just need to feel that permission that if you're feeling like this, if there is stuff coming out from you do not even know where in parts of your brain, that's absolutely fine. You're on message. Like just go with it. This is the big message for me at the moment. It's that trusting ourselves. So it's both the who are we, valuing ourselves, and valuing ourselves so much, because I think, run the risk, we're talking Taurus, Scorpio, that axis about who am I and have I been betrayed? Can I trust? You know, Scorpio is both the most intimate trust, but also that greatest of risks of betrayal, right? So through all of these sort of deaths and rebirths, we can get to the point where we're almost getting a little bit jaded of like, really? Like, can I trust? Does this wheel thing make any sense? And it's like, well, it kind of will, it kind of does. But actually, that, you know, there's an inner child in you to which none of this has ever made sense. And it's that piece that actually needs the most love at this point, and that I believe that the current sort of constellations really are speaking to.
Wow.
It's that inner piece.
That's amazing, Vicky. Thanks for excavating that with us today. Any questions from the audience? Our lovely Eden Room community are on the line. Some people are saying this is so true, this is beautiful, goosebumps. So let us know if you've got questions for Vicky before we wrap up. I just want to remind you, if you haven't yet secured your ticket for the summer solstice event, we are running a very, very special in nature retreat. It starts on the Sunday the 20th and moves into the solstice through that peak moment of the year. Come and enjoy that moment with us. Come and join us at the Eden Room in real life, in person, after a year of virtual events. Oh my goodness, we're not going to know what to do with ourselves, are we? It's an outdoor environment. You get your own luxury bell tent that you can take as a single occupancy or share with a friend or two. All the information is at www.theedenroom.com/unbound. And Vicky will be there, I'll be there, some of our amazing team will be there. We're going to have music and great food and this kind of transformational journey. You can focus on your business, on your relationships, whatever is your intention for the weekend. Well, it's not really weekend, it's a Sunday into Monday, but it'd be a wonderful time for a pattern interrupt and a reset for you. And as I say, it's a bit of a ceremony. You get to work with whatever is present for you, even on that day. You don't even need to know why you're coming. If you get the yes to be there, show up and we'll do the rest and we'll look after you. And then on about 3 o'clock on Monday, it finishes and you can make your way gently in your own time home. So all the info is at the website www.theedenroom.com/unbound. We hope you can join us. It's going to be a really special time together. Any questions before we wrap up? Vicky, any final thoughts, last words on this new moon in Taurus? May the 11th, tomorrow. It's exact at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. exactly, so that's British summer time. So I would encourage people to really put their hearts into it. I think that there's never been a greater opportunity to really sort of set according to our own truth, almost like sort of navigating to our North Star, which and I appreciate sometimes that feels a bit cliche, but this is does feel like one of those moments. And the biggest thing I would say that's coming up sort of between now and the solstice, and Kat, you alluded to it, it's living in a world of magic. You know, it's absolutely tuning to the magical. So we don't have to kind of logically talk about when is it happening, what's happening, all the rest of it. But that's not to say there's not magic happening in our lives every day that can just bring things in on magic carpets.
Oh my goodness, Vicky. I realize, you know, I don't have a particularly high tolerance for the status quo. And I've always been someone that's willing to turn up the tables and go through the mess of transformation and follow that flow and energy and calling in my life. But there's also been an experience, this is just my final sort of thought on this, where some of the things that were on the altar, right, like for sacrifice, have found themselves transforming in the most amazing way, and they've actually come back into my life more healed, more joyful, more abundant, more fulfilling, more nourishing. And so I want to reassure anyone that is making the big kind of sacrifices right now, like the big prayers, like just putting it all on the altar, like I don't know, like show me the way, like is this business going to thrive, is this marriage going to work, is this, you know, friendship done, like I'm promising you, if you surrender, if you put it on the altar, if you lay it in the light, it will either dissolve out of your vibration, it will disappear, it will transform into something like that removes itself from your experience, from your reality, and it will kind of come to its ending, or it will be transformed and returned to you in a most beautiful way. You know, the divine will kind of like wash it and give it you back and heal it and return it. And I just, that renewal is something that is like the promise for us. And what I just want to remind everyone of that, because it can feel so scary and painful when something is ending, something is dying, something is falling away. But the truth of that, like eternal life, is that it's not really dying. The love between you never changes. The joy that was there stays forever. And having the ability to go to those depths and those pains allows you a better experience of your own nature and your own relationship with your heart, with God, with life, whatever you want to call that, with the divine, so that you become more of who you were always meant to be. And all those things that are temporary, this world is temporary, like you said, astrology is always changing. This world is temporary. We put so much investment into things staying the same, but this is a temporary reality that we get to be a part of. And we are these spiritual beings having a human experience. We get to be on this journey for a bit. We are all in the process of dying. We're all in the process from the day we're born of decay, really, at a certain stage. But if we can hold that more lightly, if we can trust that more deeply, and if we can surrender more fully, we find nothing that is meant for us can ever pass us by, and we will receive everything that when we're actually at the end of our days, we do look back on and say, what a life, what a ride. I lived that fully. I have no regrets, you know, and I didn't hold on. I didn't clam up. I let myself flow with that river.
That's beautiful, Kat.
Well, the river's been rushing pretty fast around here, but I just want to encourage everyone to, you know, to keep the faith. Okay, so we've got time for a quick question, Vicky.
Yeah.
So Rima's saying, I want to leave my job. I might put the question of should I leave and set up my business on the altar tomorrow night with the new moon.
That sounds beautiful. I would suggest that there's sort of two aspects to that. There's the leaving the job and the business. So maybe be open to the universe saying maybe a blend or maybe something else, but actually underneath it all, it's like setting the intention in terms of, so where's my life best served? Where am I best placed? Actually means that whether it's the job or the business, you will get that direction. And tomorrow night is the perfect time to be tuning into that.
Yeah, and it's like you can really surrender it for my highest good, this or something better. You know, over to you now. Show me the way.
Yeah. I mean, Taurus, to be fair, new businesses, Taurus, new moon, wouldn't rule it out. I would say definitely it would be quite a good intention to set. It's the right kind of time of year. So, but I mean, equally, I'm an entrepreneur, so setting up a business usually gets the thumbs up from me.
Yeah, she says her job is soul destroying and the business feeds her soul.
Well, then I think go for what makes your heart sing. If that's the new business, then put it out there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Good time.
Yeah, and trust life to support you and invite life in, because that's the other thing, you know, spirit cannot intervene on our behalf. We live in a free will you know, dimension. So we have to ask. We have to ask for help. We have to reach out. We have to ask for help. We have to get the support, and even from spirit, because the light will never intervene without your permission, without your invitation. The dark will.
Yeah.
The dark will just trample on whatever it wants, but the light won't. So invite that
I was going to say,
life to support you, Rima, sorry.
And for Rima, I mean, in terms of the type of business, particularly if she's looking at something that might be really well constellated with Jupiter going into Pisces, so if it is something that's connected with people's hearts and souls, actually then absolutely that future business and future work might actually be pulling that intention because it wants to come in this year.
Good time to
so be worth thinking what future is calling through.
Yeah, Rima, let us know on the full moon, will you, how that went. When are we back, Vicky, for the full moon? What's the next moon?
So I believe we're actually coming back on a Tuesday the 25th, I believe, but we need to get it out there. Certainly, we're trying to fix up dates. So full moon, which will be lunar eclipse, is the 26th of May.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so that's really important. So we need to make sure that we do get everything organised and perhaps do a bit of a special all about that, so both about the eclipses and about that particular one.
Brilliant. We'll be sending you info about that, folks. Stay tuned for that one. We look forward to seeing you then and hearing all your news. Rima, all the best with that. Happy new moon tomorrow night, folks. We'll be thinking of you, and be sure to tune in for the next one, and hopefully grab your tickets for the solstice. We look forward to celebrating with you in June. Thank you so much, Vicky, as always. Loving the current that we get into, all the different aspects that you share with us. Your wisdom and your knowledge of the stars and the planets and the cosmos is so reassuring and instructional and guiding. So thank you for that. Thanks for being with us. Thanks everybody for watching. Feel free to share this with someone you care about, and lots of love, and we'll see you next time on the Eden Room. Thanks, Vicky. Bye for now.